She never expected her life to take such a turn when she first met him. The hospital hallways were where she found solace and purpose, yet in those very corridors, an unexpected romance blossomed. He was a respected doctor, known for his expertise and charm, though she had always seen him from afar, wrapped in a world so different from her own. She never imagined that someone like him would notice her, much less that they would fall into something resembling love. They shared fleeting smiles, chance encounters, and quiet conversations in the break room that soon turned into something deeper. She saw a side of him that no one else did, a vulnerability, a charm, a longing that seemed to mirror her own. For her, this relationship felt like fate, something that had been waiting for her all along. Their love grew like wildflowers, unplanned and beautiful, each moment with him feeling like a revelation. She marveled at the differences between them. They were from different worlds, yet their connection felt natural, as if they were pieces of a puzzle that finally fit together. Friends and family warned her, saying that perhaps this wasn't as perfect as it seemed. She brushed off their concerns, believing in the love that she felt, choosing to see only the good in him, the man he was with her. Days turned into months, and soon they were inseparable. She introduced him to her closest friends, including the childhood friend who had been like a sister to her. He was polite, even charming, but there was always something reserved about him. Despite the little hints of distance, she told herself it was simply a part of his personality. She trusted him completely, never doubting his loyalty or commitment. She believed in the promises he made, the future they talked about together. Children, a home, and a life filled with joy and companionship. But as time went on, cracks began to appear in the facade. Small, almost imperceptible changes in his behavior started to unsettle her. He became distant, his attention waning, his words no longer filled with the warmth they once held. At first, she thought it was work stress. The hospital was demanding, after all. She gave him space, understanding that sometimes people needed time to process their own struggles. Yet, as the days turned into weeks, his coldness became harder to ignore. Conversations grew shorter, their shared moments fewer and farther between. It was during one of these strained days that she discovered the truth. A truth so devastating it shattered her world in an instant. He was seeing someone else. The realization struck her like a physical blow, leaving her breathless and broken. She confronted him, hoping for an explanation, perhaps even an apology. Instead, he was dismissive, his once loving eyes filled with a harsh indifference she had never seen before. He offered excuses, blamed her, accused her of being too much or not enough. His words cut deeper than any betrayal, each sentence a reminder that the love she thought they shared had been nothing more than an illusion. The pain was unbearable, a mix of anger, sorrow, and self-doubt swirling inside her. How had she been so blind? How had she not seen the signs? She questioned everything, from the memories they had shared to the dreams they had built. Yet, amidst the pain, she found a strength she didn't know she had. She realized that her worth was not defined by his actions nor by his cruelty. She deserved love, respect, and honesty, things he had failed to give her. In the depths of her heartbreak, she found herself leaning on her friends, her family, and her own inner resilience. She would not let his betrayal consume her. Slowly, she began to heal, rebuilding the pieces of her life that had been broken. She embraced her independence, rediscovered her passions, and promised herself that she would never allow anyone to make her feel unworthy again. Her journey was not easy. It was marked by moments of doubt and sorrow, but she persisted. She knew that she had survived the worst and emerged stronger. This chapter of her life, though painful, taught her valuable lessons about love, trust, and self-respect. She no longer needed validation from anyone else. She had found it within herself. And as she moved forward, she carried with her a newfound sense of purpose, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that her heart was stronger than it had ever been before. She had loved deeply, trusted wholeheartedly, and survived a betrayal that could have broken her. But instead, it became the foundation for her resilience and strength. 2. Betrayal and heartbreak. In the aftermath of her discovery, her heart felt heavy with sorrow, a weight that seemed impossible to bear. The love she once thought unbreakable had been tarnished by betrayal, and the memories that once brought her joy were now laced with pain. The doctor, the man she had trusted with her dreams and her heart, was unrepentant. He looked at her not with love or remorse, but with a detachment that stung more deeply than words ever could. Days blurred into each other as she tried to make sense of what had happened. She replayed their moments together in her mind, searching for the signs she had missed, the subtle clues that might have hinted at his deceit. She wondered if she had been foolish, too trusting, too willing to believe in the goodness she thought she saw in him. Each memory now felt like a bitter reminder of the life she had envisioned but would never have. Even as she grappled with the truth, he continued to show her a side of himself she had never seen before. Where once there had been tenderness, now there was only indifference. He seemed almost annoyed by her pain, dismissing her hurt as though it were inconsequential. His words became sharper, his gaze colder, until finally he told her that perhaps she was to blame, that maybe it was her shortcomings that had driven him away. The cruelty in his words was staggering, a final blow to the heart that was already fractured beyond repair. Yet, even in the darkest moments, a small part of her resisted. A part of her remembered who she was before him, remembered the strength and dignity she had carried with her long before he entered her life. She began to see his actions for what they truly were, a reflection of his own insecurities and flaws, not a measure of her worth. The pain was real, undeniable, but it was not hers to bear alone. It belonged to him as well, a weight he would have to carry in the shadows of his own choices. She made the painful decision to walk away, to leave behind the life and the man she had once thought would be her future. It was a choice born from heartbreak, but also from a fierce determination to protect her heart and reclaim her dignity. She would not be defined by his betrayal. She would rise above it, even if it meant starting over. In the days that followed, she found herself rebuilding her life, piece by piece. It was a slow, arduous process, filled with moments of doubt and tears, yet also small triumphs. She reconnected with her passions, rediscovered the strength of her friendships, and, most importantly, began to heal. The pain he had left behind did not vanish overnight, but with each passing day it grew smaller, a distant echo of a chapter that no longer held power over her. Through her heartbreak, she learned the value of self-worth, the importance of trusting herself, and the resilience that had always been within her. She knew she had come through the worst and emerged not defeated, but transformed. She was no longer the woman who had once fallen in love with a man unworthy of her trust. She was a woman who had survived betrayal and found the courage to embrace a future filled with possibilities. 3. The hurtful words that broke her life after marriage was not what she had imagined. The dream of building a family, of creating a loving home, was something she had held on to since the early days of their relationship. But reality quickly diverged from her dreams. After 4 years of marriage, they were still childless. She endured countless doctor visits, invasive treatments, and late nights filled with prayers and hopes for a child, believing that if they kept trying, their dream would one day come true. As time passed, her husband's patience waned. The loving support he had once shown her was now replaced with frustration, a coldness that seeped into their relationship like poison. He stopped comforting her after the failed attempts, and his kind words turned into harsh accusations. She tried to understand, to be patient with him as he was with her, But each time she reached out, he pulled further away, his resentment growing with every month that passed without a child. Then, one evening, after another doctor's visit that brought no good news, he said the words she had feared but never expected to hear from him. "You can't become a mother," he told her with a bitterness that cut deep into her heart. "Maybe I chose wrong. Maybe you were never meant to be a mother." The cruelty in his voice was palpable, as if he was punishing her for something beyond her control. The words hit her like a slap, each syllable a reminder of the love that had once bound them, but now felt like a distant memory. She tried to hold back her tears, to keep her composure, but the pain was too much to bear. His words lingered in the air, filling the silence between them with a darkness that felt suffocating. She wanted to scream, to shout at him, to make him understand the hurt he had caused, but she knew it would be in vain. The man who had once promised her a lifetime of happiness and support was gone, replaced by someone she could barely recognize. In the days that followed, she found herself questioning everything: her worth, her ability to bring life into this world, her very identity as a woman. His words had planted seeds of doubt in her mind, making her
feel as if she was somehow broken, unworthy of the dream she had once held so dear. She carried this weight with her, a silent suffering that grew heavier with each passing day. But in her heart, a small spark remained, a flicker of hope that refused to be extinguished. She reminded herself of her strength, of the resilience that had carried her through countless challenges before. She realized that she could not let his words define her, that she deserved a love that would lift her up, not tear her down. Slowly, she began to see that her worth was not tied to his approval or to her ability to become a mother. She was whole and complete, regardless of his judgments or anyone else's. With time, she made the decision to leave, to free herself from a relationship that no longer brought her joy or fulfillment. It was a difficult choice, but one that ultimately brought her peace. She walked away, carrying with her the lessons she had learned, the wounds she would heal, and the unshakable belief that she deserved a love that was true, loyal, and kind. She would not let his hurtful words break her spirit. Instead, they would become the catalyst for her own journey of healing and self-discovery. Finding solace in a loyal man. After leaving behind the painful chapter with her husband, she was determined to start anew. The scars from his hurtful words and cold betrayal were still fresh, but she clung to the hope that somewhere out there she could find peace and perhaps even love again. She devoted herself to rebuilding her life, nurturing the friendships and relationships she had neglected during her marriage, and rediscovering the joys she had once known. In the midst of her healing journey, she met a man who was everything she thought no longer existed in her world. He was kind, gentle, and genuine in a way that was both refreshing and reassuring. He wasn't flashy or boastful. Instead, he showed his love through his actions, in the small gestures and unwavering support he offered her without expecting anything in return. She was drawn to him, not because he filled a void in her life, but because he saw her for who she was, flaws, scars, dreams and all, and embraced her wholeheartedly. They spent time together, gradually building a friendship that blossomed into something deeper. There were no grand declarations or rushed promises. Instead, there was a steady and comforting certainty in the way he showed up for her every day. He made her feel valued, not for what she could give or achieve, but simply for being herself. With him, she felt safe, secure in a way she had never known before. She shared her past with him, the hurtful words, the betrayals, the heartbreaks she had endured. He listened, not with judgment or pity, but with empathy, holding her hand through every tearful recount of her struggles. He reassured her that she was not defined by her past or by anyone's hurtful words, and that she deserved all the love and happiness she had once dreamed of. His loyalty was unshakable, a quiet strength that held her together on days when her own strength wavered. In time, they fell deeply in love. But this love was different. It was built on trust, respect, and a shared understanding of the hardships they both had faced. He became her partner, her confidant, and her safe haven. Together, they dreamed of a future filled with laughter and hope, a life they could create on their own terms, free from the shadows of her past. Not long after their marriage, she received the news that would change their lives forever. She was pregnant, not with one child, but with 3. The joy was overwhelming, a miracle she had once thought beyond her reach. Her loyal husband stood by her side through every step of the journey, showering her with love and encouragement. The weight of her past no longer haunted her. It had transformed into a source of strength, a testament to the resilience she had built. In his arms, she found the solace and love she had longed for, a happiness she knew she had earned. With each passing day, she realized that her journey had led her to this moment, a life filled with the love, loyalty, and peace she had once thought impossible. She had found her true partner, a man who cherished her and celebrated every part of her. Together, they awaited the arrival of their 3 children, ready to embrace a future filled with hope and boundless love. 5. A miraculous turn of fate. 9 months into her new marriage, her life took a turn she could only describe as miraculous. She and her husband had been overjoyed when they learned she was expecting, but the news that she was carrying triplets felt like a blessing beyond her wildest dreams. After years of heartache, disappointment, and doubt, this new chapter filled her with a joy she could hardly contain. Every doctor's appointment brought more excitement, each ultrasound a reminder of the incredible journey that awaited them. Her husband was her rock.
Through every step of her pregnancy, he was there for each moment, attending appointments, preparing their home, and sharing in her dreams of the family they were building together. The love he showed her was unwavering, a quiet yet powerful reassurance that their life together would be full of kindness, warmth, and unwavering support. She had never felt so loved, so valued, so complete. The months that followed were a beautiful whirlwind of preparations and dreams. They painted the nursery, picking out soft colors and little details for each of their babies. Friends and family showered them with love and gifts, excited to welcome not just 1, but 3 new lives into the world. Her loyal husband was a constant source of joy, helping her through every challenge of her pregnancy with patience and a tenderness that left her feeling grateful for the man she had chosen to share her life with. As her due date drew closer, she felt a deep sense of peace, as though everything she had gone through had led her to this exact moment. Her past, once filled with heartache and betrayal, was now a distant memory, replaced by the overwhelming joy of impending motherhood. She marveled at the strength that had carried her through it all, and she was proud of the woman she had become, the woman who had overcome so much and was now on the brink of a new life filled with love and promise. Finally, the day arrived. The labor was long and exhausting, but her heart swelled with joy when she held her 3 beautiful daughters for the first time. Tears streamed down her face as she looked at each of them, their tiny faces a reminder of the love she had found and the journey that had brought her to this point. Her husband stood beside her, his eyes filled with pride and love, and together they embraced their new family with open hearts. Their daughters were everything she had dreamed of and more, a testament to the resilience of the human heart and the miracles that love can bring. She knew that their life together would be filled with challenges, but with her husband by her side and her daughters in her arms, she felt ready to face anything. She had been through so much to get here, but it had all been worth it. This miraculous turn of fate had given her a life she once thought impossible, a life filled with love, family, and a future brighter than anything she had ever imagined. She had finally found her happiness, a happiness that was real, lasting, and hers to cherish forever. 6. Returning to the scene of betrayal. As fate would have it, when it came time for her daughters to be born, she found herself returning to the very hospital where her former love, the doctor who had once shattered her heart, still worked. Life had a strange way of circling back, and as she walked through the hospital doors, memories flooded back. She could still picture the moments of laughter, the silent promises, and then the bitter betrayal. Yet, standing there now with her loyal husband by her side and 3 new lives about to join them, she felt different. She was no longer that broken woman. She was whole, stronger, and filled with a love that had finally healed her wounds. The nurses and doctors, some of whom remembered her from her past, welcomed her with kindness. She sensed their surprise at seeing her back, now happily married and on the brink of motherhood, a far cry from the woman she once was. She held her head high, refusing to let the shadows of her past diminish the joy that filled her heart. She was here to bring her children into the world, and nothing, not even the memories of betrayal, could steal that happiness from her. Her labor was long, and during those moments of pain and anticipation, she leaned on her husband, who stayed by her side, whispering words of love and encouragement. She drew strength from his presence, grateful for the steadfast support he had shown her. She realized that every struggle, every heartbreak, had led her to this very moment, to the family they were about to welcome together. Finally, after hours of labor, her 3 daughters entered the world, each one a beautiful symbol of resilience, love, and hope. The room was filled with an overwhelming sense of joy, and she held each of her daughters close, marveling at the miracle of their arrival. She felt a peace she had never known, a deep gratitude for the journey that had led her to this point. But then, as fate would have it, her former husband entered the hospital that same day, arriving late and unaware of the incredible event that had just taken place. He walked into the room, expecting the usual routine, but was stopped in his tracks when he saw her there, surrounded by her loving husband and their 3 newborn daughters. He was visibly stunned, his face a mixture of shock and disbelief as he took in the scene before him. In that moment, she felt a sense of triumph. She had moved beyond his cruelty, beyond the painful words he had once used.
To tear her down. Here she was, surrounded by love, by family, by the life she had always dreamed of. She was no longer the broken woman he had left behind. She was a mother, a wife, a survivor, and a victor in her own story. She didn't say a word to him, but her strength and happiness spoke volumes. Her daughters were the ultimate symbol of her journey, a testament to the power of resilience and the miracle of love. With her husband by her side and her daughters in her arms, she had come full circle, reclaiming her happiness and proving that true love and loyalty were worth waiting for. She had returned to the scene of betrayal, not as a victim, but as a woman who had triumphed over her past, embracing the beautiful life she had built. 7. A shocking revelation. As the news of her triplets' birth spread throughout the hospital, people gathered to congratulate her and her husband. The room buzzed with excitement as staff members, doctors, and nurses marveled at the arrival of the 3 beautiful babies. Yet, in the midst of the celebration, her former husband, once the man she believed would be the father of her children, stood silently, trying to process what he was witnessing. Seeing him there, she felt a surge of emotions, remnants of hurt, memories of betrayal, but above all, a profound sense of release. This man, who had once made her doubt herself, who had coldly told her she could never become a mother, was now faced with the undeniable truth. Not only had she found a love that was true, but she had also been blessed with a family beyond what she had ever dared to hope for. As he approached, she could see the confusion and disbelief etched into his face. It was as if the world he had known had suddenly shifted, and he was left grasping for understanding. She could sense his shock as he looked from her to her husband, and then to the 3 tiny lives cradled in her arms. In that moment, she understood the power of the journey she had been through and the strength she had gained from it. Without intending to, she found herself speaking aloud, her voice calm, yet filled with a strength that resonated in the room. "You once told me I would never be a mother, that I was not enough. But here I am, blessed with these 3 beautiful daughters, and a man who loves me truly and completely." Her words hung in the air, a quiet declaration of her victory, a reminder to him and to herself that she had overcome the pain he had caused her. A murmur spread through the onlookers, a shared sense of the justice and redemption embodied in her words. She didn't need to say anything more. She had spoken her truth, and it was enough. She no longer felt anger or resentment toward him. Instead, she felt a kind of peace, a release from the pain he had once inflicted. She had found her way back to herself, stronger and more complete than she had ever been before. The former husband, stunned and speechless, eventually turned and left the room, his presence fading into the background of her new life. She watched him go, feeling nothing but gratitude for the life she now held in her arms. Surrounded by her husband, her children, and a sense of fulfillment that went beyond words, she knew she had reclaimed her story. Not through revenge or bitterness, but through love, resilience, and faith in the life she deserved. In that moment, she understood that true happiness was her best victory, a victory no one could take from her. She had faced betrayal, endured heartbreak, and overcome every doubt, emerging with a family and a future that filled her with joy. Her daughters would grow up knowing the story of their mother's strength, and her husband would remain by her side, a partner in the life they had built together. This was her revelation, her final chapter of healing, a chapter filled with love, justice, and the freedom to live without regret. 8. Embracing a life filled with love and triumph. As she held her daughters close, the weight of her journey finally settled in her heart. Every heartbreak, every harsh word, every lonely night had led her to this moment, a moment of fulfillment that was deeper than anything she had ever imagined. With her loyal husband by her side and her 3 daughters in her arms, she felt a happiness that went beyond mere joy. It was a peace, a quiet victory that was hers alone to cherish. Her life, once clouded by betrayal and broken dreams, was now illuminated by the love that surrounded her. Her husband was a partner in every sense, not only in love, but in friendship and trust. Together, they shared a bond that had been forged through patience, understanding, and unwavering commitment. He was her strength on difficult days, her laughter in moments of joy, and her unwavering companion as they navigated the ups and downs of life. Looking at her daughters, she saw not only the beauty of new beginnings, but also a reflection of her own resilience. Each of them was a reminder of the strength she had. Looking at her daughters, she saw not only the beauty of new beginnings, but also a reflection of her own resilience. Each of them was a reminder of the strength she had found within herself, a testament to the courage it had taken to move beyond her past and embrace the future. She was determined to raise them with the same values that had guided her through her own struggles: strength, kindness, and self-respect. Her ex-husband's presence was now a distant memory, an echo of a life that no longer held power over her. She no longer harbored resentment or regret. Instead, she felt a sense of closure, a peaceful understanding that everything she had endured had shaped her into the woman she was today. She had overcome the pain, not by seeking revenge or validation, but by finding love that was real and by building a life that was true. With her family, she embraced each day with gratitude and purpose, creating memories and sharing moments that filled their home with laughter and warmth. Her daughters grew, surrounded by a love that was boundless and genuine, knowing their mother as a woman who had triumphed over hardship with grace and dignity. She and her husband raised them with the knowledge that they too were capable of overcoming any obstacle, that they were strong, valued, and loved. In the end, her life was not defined by the betrayal she had endured, but by the love she had chosen and the family she had created. She had turned her pain into purpose, her struggles into stories of hope and resilience. She knew that her daughters would grow up proud of the life she had built and inspired by the strength she had shown. And as she looked around at her family, she felt an overwhelming sense of triumph, not over anyone else, but over the hardships that had once threatened to break her. This was her victory, her reward for a journey that had been filled with trials and triumphs. She had found a life filled with love, peace, and fulfillment, a life that was truly her own. The past was a part of her, but it no longer held her back. She had embraced her story, her scars, and her joy, and she knew that this life, this beautiful, triumphant life, was everything she had ever hoped for and more.